Hello students, welcome to today's flipped lesson. Today we are going to be looking at medieval Europe from kind of a large scale perspective. So in class, what we're going to do is look at the local level. What was happening on at the local level? What was the average person, what was their average person's experiences? But in this video, we're going to look at the larger grand scale. And so the first grand scale area we're going to look at is the Frankish Empire, which will one day become France. And so these are things that are happening at the big scale level that the average person would probably have no knowledge of. So essentially, what you're looking at here is a time lapse of France's spread, or the Franks, and their spread of power. And you can see that they're going to keep spreading, and then what will happen is eventually the empire will get so big and their leader will die, and it'll be split up amongst three people, three different groups. And so you see that kind of happen here. So that's the Frankish Empire. Now, the Franks settle along what is now known as France, and in 7071, one of their greatest leaders is King Charlemagne, who will also be known in some areas as Charles the Great. He will be the leader, and when he dies, you can see that when he dies, he will split his land up amongst three grandsons, and that will eventually become one area will one day become France. A long time from now, another area will become Italy, and the middle area, Germany, what will become Germany, will be known as the Holy Roman Empire for a long time. So that's kind of at a large scale what's going on, and there's a lot of lesser lords and lesser nobles in each area that owns a tract of land there. Okay, so we kind of looked at France, and now we're going to look at England, and England's got a very kind of cool story to it. One of the first notable rulers of England during the Middle Ages is William the Conqueror, and he's going to take control of England in 1066, and he's going to take almost the entire large island. Um, his great grandson will be John the First, and this is important because under John the First is going to be the king that's forced to sign the Magna Carta, and the Magna Carta is very important. And there is a picture of the Magna Carta, or a copy of it anyway. And so let's talk about what this is and why it's so important. Well, the Magna Carta. It's the first document in human history to place limits on royal power. And this is only in England, by the way, only in England. So the king is not going to be all powerful. There will be a document above him. If you remember kind of the thing with some leaders, you have the king on top, and then underneath him you have laws, and then the people are subject to the laws. This places the laws, even the laws, are above the king. So it's the first document ever forced on a king by his subjects. So the nobles get together and they say, listen, king, if you still want to be king, you better sign this. And so he doesn't really have a choice and he's forced to sign it. And it's the first document to legally limit the power of the king. And again, this is only in England. So in France, in the Holy Roman Empire, in other areas, kings will have unlimited power. But in England, for the first time, laws are going to be more powerful than the king. So in a simple context, if the king murders somebody and it's against the law, the king can't say, oh, well, I'm the king. Not to say that the king's not still powerful, but he's not above laws. Um, this prevented the king from collecting taxes from the nobles without their consent. So now the king has to ask, essentially, the king has to ask for permission. And that's also kind of a new thing that the Magna Carta does. Also, it said that any nobles accused of a crime are allowed to have a trial with a jury. So that's kind of a new thing. And it guarantees some other rights and freedoms for nobles and free men. Not peasants, but nobles and free men are going to be guaranteed certain rights. And so what you're looking at is kind of like the great-great-grandfather to the Constitution in terms of documents. All right, so we looked at France, we looked at England, and the next thing we're going to look at this area in the middle, which will one day become Germany and some other countries, but right now it's going to be known as the Holy Roman Empire. And if you look at this map, the Holy Roman Empire is split into all kinds of places. It's split into all kinds of places. And so the two things that I want you to know One is that they are not a fully united area. There's all these little kingdoms around. And two, although Rome is no longer powerful, the Pope who lives in Rome is still very powerful, especially in terms of Christianity. And so, a major conflict that both the kings and the religious people fight over is this question right here. Can a king appoint a pope, or can a pope appoint a king? And this problem goes back and forth. And sometimes you're going to have some really strong popes, and sometimes you're going to have some really strong kings. But on the overall, this will always be a conflict as to who has more power. And we're going to stop right there. And so you kind of got a big overview of some of the big things that were going on in Europe during the time of the Middle Ages. Again, not the average person would experience this, but looking back on history, we can see the big things happening.